Say I'm way too obsessed and I've got nothing left and I'm not quite there.
So this is me reading you guys the third chapter of the Chronicles of Darkness, my novel. If you haven't already heard the other two chapters, you should go back and listen to them first. The reason that I'm doing it a bit differently in person instead of just completely audio is because my microphone is bugging out, popping. Even after I get the pop filter, it's still popping. Everything I do, it's not working, and the mic I use for the skits and everything like that, it always works, no problems, and so I think I'm going to do it that way. I feel like it will be more immersive anyways. So sit back, relax, and enjoy. I hope you like listening to me reading you a story. And if you want to read the entire book, you can find the Chronicles of Darkness, The Tales of Old by Dominik on Amazon. Alright, let's get right into it. Yui'loon, in the continent of Awry and the country of Lavalix, on March 21st, 4167 AD. The fat noble's arm was wrapped around Peth's neck, both of them laughing as the drunk man leaned in and sniffed her hair. You smell delicious. She ran her hand over his silver-buttoned, luxurious golden jacket, his eyes lingering on her breasts, desire living within his gaze. For only 13, she aged maturely, looking as if she was 3 years older. Her clothes were revealing just as a whore would be. A low-cut dress and a top with a slit in between her bosom. She wore high black boots and stumbled along with him, feigning drunkenness. And you're so handsome, my lord. Can you take me to the lake, the one only nobility can go to? Of course, sweetie. Nobody will be there at a time like this, he said. And the metalmen? She kissed his neck, sucking on it. The guards following us? I want privacy. The Viscount snapped his finger, turning an eye on the 4 guards with him. You're dismissed. I'll be returning to the manor later tonight, or possibly even tomorrow, he said, his last words holding a touch of excitement. Yes, my lord, the captain said, leading his men in another direction. Yui'loon followed closely, staying along the tile rooftops. His dark steel mask was pressed tight to his face, and his cloak hugged the sides of his head. He held one of his throne kunai in hand, eyeing the noble. Closer than he wanted them to be, the Viscount led Peth to the lake, over a black cobblestone bridge and a clear river. 2 guards stood on either side of the bridge, making it impossible to follow. Yui'loon lost sight of them, altering his path. He ran along the top of the water, concentrating deeply on his meditation training. He was the only one from the class to get it right. Even some of the elders couldn't master the technique. The night sky shielded him from sight, his black clothes blending with darkness. They were already naked, their clothes scattered carelessly over the sand. Laughter echoed across the water as the Viscount chased Peth from the lake. His small cock was hairy and twitching with excitement, his stomach bouncing all over the place. He was too slow to keep up with her. Yui'loon pushed his jealousy aside as he silently moved behind the lord. The Viscount caught up to Peth, playfully tackling her. He pressed his chubby hands against her plump breasts, meeting her lips with his. The passion was disgusting, biting one another's lips as they slipped their tongues into the other's mouth. He grabbed his cock, laughing between breaths. As he was beginning to press himself against her shaved vagina, Yui'loon placed his kunai to the Viscount's throat. I'd stop if I were you, Yui'loon said, a cold edge to his voice. The noble's eyes widened, a gasp escaping his lips. What do you want? Peth slipped out from under him, jumping to her feet. Get up. You? Listen to her, and don't you dare scream, Yui'loon said. The noble obeyed, his hands shaking and his body quivering. Yui'loon moved behind him, poking his back with his kunai. Over to the lake. He remained silent until they reached the edge of the water, Peth still bare. The lord glanced over to her, pleading for help. What do you want? Gold? Title? Women? I have them all. I'll give you whatever you want. Just let me live. You touched my girl. Nobody but me touches her and walks away, Yui'loon said, running the blade across the lord's throat. He grabbed his neck as blood pooled through the creases of his fingers. Yui'loon pushed him into the lake, the water becoming red. He fought to stay above with little success, gagging before being taken by the lake. Peth placed a hand on his shoulder, rubbing it. He pushed it away, walking a few feet from her. You were supposed to wait. The flirting. You got carried away and took the plan too far. You weren't supposed to get naked or let his dirty-ass lips touch you. He would have fucked you if I hadn't stepped in. She ran her fingers across the back of his neck before coming around and looking him in the eyes. They were as beautiful as the sea. But I didn't, and we succeeded. I trusted you, and you didn't disappoint." She caressed his cheek and brought her soft lips to his. Yui'loon rolled his eyes, sighing before embracing in her passion. He ran his fingers over the outside of her gills, moving his hand to her leg. He lifted her, holding her from behind as he bit down on her lower lip. She moaned, lightly biting his tongue. He shared in her pleasure as he dropped his pants and pressed himself close. "You're mine, and only mine. I want you to remember that," Yui'loon hissed, pushing himself into her. I know. I'm sorry, dear." Yui'loon fell on top of her, placing her against the ground. They rolled in the grass, making love under the moonlight, nearby their first contract's corpse. Peth dug her fingers into his back, biting his neck. He released a moan, breathing in the lavender scent of her hair. A shadow moved unnaturally, a glimpse caught from Yui'loon's peripheral vision. He leapt to his feet, rolling to the side and snatching his kunai. Peth didn't ask. She was better than that. She quickly threw her pants and shirt on, withdrawing a knife, which was hidden in her boot. Elder Melgo stepped from the shadows, only recently earning the title. His black goatee had grown into a beard throughout the last few years. He was grinning, eyeing Peth, Yui'loon's skin itching with anger. "Sir, we've completed our test. The Viscount lays at the bottom of the lake," Yui'loon said. "You haven't completed it as of yet. Your final test is now upon you. We've lied to you your entire lives, intentionally grown the relationship between our students and their partner. One of you must kill the other to prove your worth. Show us that you're willing to do anything to become a shadow." He paused and turned. "You have 1 hour. I want one of you to be dead by the stroke of midnight. If you're both still alive, you've failed." He fell into the shadow of a tree, melding with it before disappearing into the night. Neither of them moved, completely in shock. Yui'loon's hands were shaking, his kunai slipping from his grasp, impaling the dirt. The woman he's worked so hard to keep alive and protect was the person he was meant to kill? "Take my kunai and push it into my heart. One of us has to become a shadow." "I won't let you fail," Yui'loon said. "No," she snapped, turning to him and cupping his cheeks. "I'm not going to kill you. I refuse to. You're my world, my everything. They've gone mad if they think that I'll kill you. Why would they raise us like this if that was our purpose? We're better assassins together." "I'll kill myself then. I won't allow for us both to be punished," he said, remembering Isabel. "Then let us leave. We can run and hide in the wilds. We can take as few contracts as possible and hunt to survive. Please, why? I don't want to be alone," she said, tears welling in her eyes. He forced a nod, selfishly wanting to spend more of his life with her. He didn't want their love together to come to an end. "Not yet." "We have to leave now then. Come before he returns." She wiped her tears away, a strained smile tugging at her lips. "Thank you, dear." Maybe they were both selfish. Hundreds of shadows must have killed one another. He didn't understand how they could. It was either the strongest thing one could do, or the most pathetic. To betray a loved one for a way of life was something he could never do. Since that day, he had sworn his life to protect Impethelene. She was his purpose. He knew that to be true now more than ever. He was relieved to know that she felt the same. After midnight. The branches of the woods rustled. A chill shivered down his back, his hair standing. A deathly sense echoed in his mind. Images of a dark man dressed in Shadow's gear moved through the darkness. His face was covered by a black Exilian steel mask, which only an elder would wear. His katana and wakizashi were also made of Exilian steel, the sharpest and most durable metal in the world, embedded in darkness. Instinct took over as Yui'loon shoved Peth aside, holding his hands toward the elder, meaning to pounce on them. Lunging from the shadows, Elder Melgo was struck by a column made of darkness, his wakizashi soaring through the air. He grunted. The wind knocked from his lungs as he disappeared into the jungle. Yui'loon's eyes altered, becoming red as Elder Serial's were. Melgo emerged from the shadow of a tree. His wakizashi was gone, leaving him with his katana. "Should have obeyed your commands, kidlets. Yui'loon, I'm going to kill you because you're more trouble than you're worth. As for Impethelene, she'll be coming back to the creeds." Melgo's armor was dark, held together by silken leather. Steel plates were tied as one, and a kusazuri protected his lower regions. Anything open was guarded by chainmail. His helm imitated a head with horns, and his mask was a skeletal face. Melgo moved his head in the nick of time, avoiding a knife thrown with precision. The blade scraped across his metal mask, sparks brightening the night. "I'm not going anywhere with you," Peth said. "Typical that you would follow in the same footsteps as your parents," betraying our ways. I knew bringing you back was a mistake made by the elders, and I was correct, Melgo said. She stared for a moment, her eyes widening. Did the creeds kill my parents? Power emanated through Yui'loon, his body becoming stronger and more agile than it's ever been. His eyes remained bright red, shadows developing from nothing, moving around him, darkness surrounding his hair and body, turning to a smoky black, a cloak flowing from his back. Even his katana grew to imitate a shadow, power crescent as steel. Peth, stay back, Yui'loon said. Yui'loon and Melgo met in the center of the path, holding their katanas with both of their hands. Yui'loon held his defensively, watching his mentor. Melgo was holding his high, ready to thrust his blade. He stabbed for Yui'loon, his attack parried. Yui'loon kept his gaze locked with Melgo, keeping himself moving. They met each other's blades, dancing in a furious effort to kill one another. Every strike from Melgo was more intense than the last, his skill exceeding Yui'loon's. Their blades made contact, the darkness protecting his steel from being sliced in half by the sharper metal. They held their katanas against one another's, trying to outpower the other. Melgo's blade slipped through Yui'loon's defense, slicing across his chest. There was no pain, leaving the three of them in awe. The darkness surrounding him wasn't just for show. It was a very powerful armor as well. An unnatural screech escaped Yui'loon's mouth as he thrusted his katana toward Melgo. Dozens of blades manifested from darkness. Melgo's body was mutilated in moments. His throat slit open and stabbed through. His eye cut in half as a blade impaled the back of his head, innards falling free onto the earth's floor as his stomach was sliced open. He was beyond butchered. Over 30 katanas puncturing his body, leaving him immediately lifeless. Yui'loon fell over, his katana clanging against stone. The world blurred, and the next thing he knew, Peth was looking into his eyes, shaking him. The words that left her lips were far away and difficult to make out. It was as if the exhaustion lasted forever. Everything blackened, and then as if he'd been awake and conscious, he was walking. His arm was slung over Peth's shoulder, Melgo's katana and wakizashi strapped to his side. If he had been awake, he didn't remember a thing. The exhaustion remained, but it wasn't as grave as before. What happened? He asked. I think that Elder Serial is your father. That's why he favored you, even before you were at the top of the class. You and him share the same abilities. The only difference is, your eyes are brown again. His is always red. At least now that we're leaving, we can raise our own children. It would break my heart to give my son or daughter away to the creeds at 4. With my bloodline, they would be chosen to become a shadow, Yui'loon said. We're never going back. They raised us to be one and will remain that way. We just need to be smart and always keep moving, Peth said. Yui'loon nodded. They'll never stop hunting us. Alright, that was the end of the 3rd chapter in the part The Son of Darkness within this novel, The Chronicles of Darkness. I hope you enjoyed, and if you did, well, stick around for the next one.
I will not let them win. I won't stop till the end. No.